Hi, this is Curtis Hawks, Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer with IAMS, and I'm very pleased to have with me today Tyler Randall. He's National Sales Director with Stonewood Financial, and they're a firm that we've been working with for a while now, and we've seen a significant amount of success with their platform, with how they market, and how they can really help put our advisors in a position to generate more revenue and show their clients how to generate better leverage, yield, and get their assets into a more tax advantage position. So Tyler, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us today.
Hey, you bet. My pleasure. Thank you for having us.
So first question I have is, part of the reason why we got affiliated with Stonewood is we had obviously heard of you, and you guys have had significant growth over the last several years, but what would you attribute that to?
Yeah, we have, and I think that if you look at IUL in the marketplace today, it can be a very complex sale. And I think what the secret sauce for Stonewood is we've really taken what can be a complex sale and made it very simple from a marketing standpoint, so that you can talk to prospects and clients and market in a very simple way. But I think the key is, once somebody says yes, what happens when they come into your office or when you meet with them virtually? How do we present IUL and insurance? And that sometimes can be complex. And so what we've really done is also, through our software, simplified that for advisors so that it's very clear and concise, the message and the value that you can present, mainly on tax reduction. And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But the message and the value of insurance is very simply communicated through our reports. And I think people have found that very comforting and easy to show. And that's created a nice funnel of business for advisors to be able to close this type of business and engage prospects and bring on new clients as well, just by simplifying the overall process. I think that's been our secret to success.
Okay, I appreciate you sharing that. Now, as we march forward into this year, from your perspective, what role are taxes going to play in the planning process, knowing that we've got a new administration that's come in? But can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's going to be huge. I think the biggest differentiator that all of us, that can provide to prospects and clients right now for our services, differentiating from others, is the ability to help with tax reduction. I think everybody is keenly aware that taxes are probably going to go up. We've got a huge deficit. We've got new administrations coming in. The likelihood that taxes were going up was going to happen eventually. And I think everybody knows that. And so here's a way for us, when we want to get in front of clients and prospects, if we can talk about ways to navigate that environment and reduce overall taxes. We talk a lot at Stonewood about micro tax planning versus macro tax planning. And a lot of people focus on micro tax planning, which is, okay, let's reduce 2021 taxes or 2020 taxes to the minimum amount. At Stonewood, we really focus on macro tax planning. It's how do we reduce overall taxes, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars of tax reduction for our clients in retirement over their 30 years or 40 years of retirement. That big picture planning is really what's getting people's attention, and it really is differentiating our advisors that are using that macro tax planning process and talking about hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars of tax savings. That's opening people's eyes. It's kind of like a cold bucket of water over people's head when you're able to say, hey, I can save you $500,000 in taxes by implementing some simple strategies to reduce this risk, this tax risk that's looming out there, and here's how, and be able to show somebody simply that type of value. It's not only helping clients, but it's helping access a higher net worth prospect as well.
Absolutely. No, I think you're absolutely right. So I think the advisors watching this today and myself, I think we're ready to learn some more about the platform and see what we might be able to incorporate this into our practice.
Yeah, terrific. Well, let me take you through it. So again, Stonewood we're really a marketing and sales and software organization, consulting organization. We're just here to help you simplify IUL and to help you drive more revenue, help more clients, and make more money. And that's really what we've done successfully over the last several years. And so let me just take you through the marketing side of what's available to you. And Stonewood really has two marketing programs designed to engage two different demographics. So this book that you're looking at the cover of a book called The New Rules of retirement savings. And it's a 100-page book that we've had a ton of success with in engaging clients that are saving for retirement. So you're, 30 to 60-year-olds still working, and they're using IUL as a 401k alternative. So you kind of think about it, the old rules told us to save in a tax-deferred vehicle for the next 30 years and then tap that vehicle for income for the next 30 years of retirement. Well, we feel like deferring hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in 30, 40, 50 years into the future where taxes could be much higher is a tremendous amount of risk. And we think that the distribution rules on these qualified accounts are up for election every 4 years. We just saw through the Secure Act that stretch IRAs went away, right? What's going to happen in 30 or 40 years? How are these qualified plans going to be distributed? What are they going to be taxed at on those distribution rules? That's a tremendous amount of risk. So this book says, why not save in a tax-free vehicle? And it's a great way to engage that type of young saver client. And so that book is really for that demographic, probably 30 to 60-year-old saving for retirement. Our second book that we use, which is also, we have a full marketing program around it, I'll share with you here in just a second. It's called the No Compromise Retirement Plan. And this is for your 60-year-olds plus that have already saved in a qualified account. They have some significant assets there. And we're talking to them about a similar story, but we're talking about the idea that this nest egg of deferred money could benefit from taking some of the money out of a qualified account, paying the taxes over the next several years, because taxes are relatively low and they're in known quantity. We know that until between now and 2026, we've got this window of time to take advantage of hopefully a known quantity around taxes in a historically low tax environment and get money into a tax-free vehicle so that we can tax diversify a portion of this qualified account. And this book is a really easy read for readers because Martin Ruby, our CEO, he's an actuary. That's his background. He really talks about his, being a numbers guy. He crunches the numbers on his own IRA, and he tells the story of why he converted about $500,000 of his own money from his qualified account to an IUL. The hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax savings he intends to get, the hundreds of thousands of dollars of additional income he can get from that tax savings. And then he talks about the risk reduction that he gets through the indexing on IUL. And he encourages the reader to seek out the advisor or financial professional that gave him the book and crunch the numbers for themselves, find out the numbers. And that tees up our software and our reports we'll share with you in a minute. But both books are maybe 100 pages. Maybe take somebody an hour to read. And what we found is it'll really shorten the sales cycle for you. If you're marketing with these books, which have been highly effective marketing tools, people come to you talking about and asking buying questions. They're ready to implement the strategy. And then the next step is, how do we share that with them? How do we show them their tax benefits and their income benefits? And that's what our software does. So both books, by the way, have a full PowerPoint presentation. So if you are doing webinars or you have the ability to do a live seminar, it's not a lot of us these days, but the content is all there. It's all there for you. So we have speaker notes, sample videos, everything that if you want to show a tax reduction presentation virtually or live, the content is there and it goes hand in hand with those books. The books do have the opportunity, if you want, there's a program to customize them. Some people like to do that, which is putting your picture and bio, contact information on the back of the book, and you can, there's a compliant forward that's already pre-written, so your name could appear on the front, and it's a terrific marketing tool. We'll talk about it in more detail. Lots of radio, TV, podcast content. So if you're doing any of that, there's a lot of that in our marketing catalog. And then there's a lot of client brochures and one-pagers and things that you could use. So if you want to use a drip campaign to talk about this tax reduction strategy and get it out to prospects and clients, there's a lot of that content available for you to use. And however somebody comes to you, whether they're a client or prospect, it's kind of them, what do you do when they say yes and want to talk to you about it? Well, that's where we're usually stuck with a whiteboard and a yellow legal and an 80-page carrier illustration where nobody knows what the heck they're looking at to sell from. Our software makes it simple. And I'm going to show you some of the outputs on that here in just a minute. But this is really kind of giving you an overview of some of the marketing resources that are available And there's a tremendous amount of them. We do a full comprehensive training around how to incorporate and customize these and use them in your practice. But there's a tremendous amount of resources there available to you. And what I'm going to do here now is transition into some case studies, a couple of case studies to show you, once somebody comes in or talks to you, you're meeting with them virtually, what do you present to them? What do these reports look like? And what are some of the key talking points that help you engage clients so that you can start this conversation around IUL? It's really not even an IUL presentation. It's more of a tax reduction presentation that I'm going to share with you, at least initially. So let's look at a couple of case studies, and this will be what we would consider in our marketing program the new rules of retirement savings. It's John. He's in his 40s. He's currently got a couple $100,000 in a 401k and just adding to it regularly. And so our conversation with a client like this and prospect, I'm sure you have a ton of these, it's deferring this hundreds of thousands of dollars into a unknown tax environment and rules environment is a lot of risk. Taxes are a huge risk that needs to be addressed, and not a lot of people are addressing them. Certainly asset allocation and longevity risk and all these things, but taxes are a risk like that, and we need to address it. And so continuing to fund a tax deferred vehicle is a lot of risk. So we talk about tax diversification and what is the benefit of your 401 currently, this qualified account that you're funding, and what would be the benefit of a tax-free vehicle. And so we start the conversation with what we call a tax liability report. And all it shows is, very simply, John's benefit of funding his 401k. And in this slide, you're seeing that his benefit is that it defers about $83,000 in taxes. And that's great. We kick that can down the road. But it doesn't mean we're going to avoid taxes. In fact, this next number that appears on your screen here is his taxes when he gets to 65 and starts taking systematic withdrawals over his lifetime. Most people don't see this aggregate number. It's over $300,000 in taxes that John's going to pay over his lifetime from taking systematic withdrawals from this qualified account. And so we create a very simple report. This is actually the talking page. It's one page of an 8-page tax liability report, which basically says this: hey, John, you could defer these $83,000 in taxes, and that's fine. That's what you're doing. But wouldn't it make sense for us to fund a vehicle where we could avoid that $300,000 in taxes altogether, saving a tax-free vehicle? And we can accomplish that through tax-free IUL. And so this is a great conversation starter, eye-opener. When you can show somebody how to avoid $300,000 in taxes and a way to mitigate a lot of the tax risk that's looming, higher tax rates that people are fearful from, this is a great report that can start a conversation and will really engage a client or a prospect.
Tyler, and I'd like to add into that too. We've had a significant amount of success this year with our preset appointment program. And so we've got a lot of advisors running appointments with people who are wanting an income analysis. And so they're contributing on a pre-tax basis into various retirement accounts. And I've got to be honest with you, the feedback that we've got from the advisors using this software has been amazing, because it does a really good job of creating that aha moment with that prospect of, I had no idea. This is what I'm deferring, but then this is what I'm going to pay when it comes to retirement. And I think when it comes to saving pre-tax, I think a lot of people, it's just what they've always been told. Save on a pre-tax basis, your tax bracket should be lower in the future and it should work out. But when you actually put the numbers into the system and actually look at what does that actually look like, I think it's a huge eye-opener, aha moment for a lot of people. And so we've had a significant amount of success partnering this software platform with that prospecting system as well.
Yeah, it's terrific. I mean, I think having a great prospecting system like that and being a call to action is, let's analyze your taxes. Let's see if there's an ability to save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And to create a report like this just makes that conversation real simple. I think that's a home run to be able to combine those two things together. So let's look at second case study here, and this will be really, as we presented those marketing programs, the no compromise retirement plan. This is Jim's 60. He's already accumulated about $1.5 million in an IRA, 25% tax liability. And so our conversation with somebody like this is pretty simple. It's, what does your tax bill, your aggregate tax bill over your lifetime look like if you continue to defer this $1.5 million until you're 72, take your required minimum distributions, and then take that required minimum distribution until you're 90 and pass it on to your family? What does your overall tax bill look like? And nobody knows the answer to that. They've never seen it. No one's talking about it. But we're differentiating our business by talking about that. And then the other part of it, and this is the most important part of it, is can we save him, Jim here, hundreds of thousands of dollars by taking and carving out a portion of that IRA? We're going to analyze $500,000 here, and pay the taxes on it now over the next 5 years. Fund a tax-free vehicle and tax diversify this account. Could that save Jim hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes over his retirement years? Well, let's find out. And so that's exactly what our report does, is it talks about tax savings. And the way that we do that is through our software. And in our software, you can make some assumptions. In this case, you can run a return assumption on the portfolio, stocks, fixed, the average fixed to equity mix, completely up to you. So you can represent return numbers that you think is appropriate. And then you can also show effective tax rate, which we combine and we call, your total of local, state, and federal. And so for Jim here, we're going to start out with him in the 25% effective rate. And of course, do we think rates are just going to stay flat and constant, the remainder of Jim's years? Probably not. So we're going to show a slightly increasing rate in your 7 to 32.5%. Once the current tax code sunset in 2026, it'll probably mean a tax rate increase for most Americans. So we're going to show a modest one here. And then when Jim dies, we're having him pass at age 90 in this case study. His beneficiaries typically inherit these qualified monies during their prime earning years in their 50s, and they're probably going to be in a higher tax bracket 30 years from now. So we're going to show them in the 35% effective rate. So these are all assumptions, by the way, the growth assumptions and the future tax forecast. You can control it in the software, so you can be very specific for your clients. So some may be more conservative than this, some may be in much higher tax brackets, and the numbers are really going to jump off the page. But always under your control, so you can show something that you feel comfortable representing. So here's his current mix of dollars. He's got $1 million in AUM, $500,000 in annuity. We're just going to suggest that he tax diversifies a portion of this account, because right now 100% of it is deferred, and it's going to be at risk to higher taxes in the future, different rules of distribution in the future potentially. So we're just going to say, let's take $500,000, and over the next 5 years, we'll take $100,000 a year out. We'll withhold 25% or $25,000, pay our debt to the IRS, get them off our back, and get $75,000 into a tax-free vehicle. So at least a portion, Jim, of your qualified account is tax-free now and not subject to all this tax risk that's looming. And here's the rationale behind it. We just show the straight numbers. If you keep your IRA just from required minimum distributions alone, from 72 to 90, Jim's going to pay over $200,000 in taxes. And that may be a surprising number by itself, because most people don't get to, they know their required minimum distribution approximately, how much they might have to take out. That may be a number that they know, but most people don't see it in an aggregate like this and say, wow, I'm going to pay $200,000 on a $500,000 account. That's a lot of taxes. Well, that's not where the story ends. If you reinvest those required minimum distributions into a non-tax, taxable vehicle, the interest and dividends are taxed over your lifetime to the tune of about $65,000, because the IRS is going to tax those reinvested dividends as well and tax you. The value in that IRA is going to be taxed then again to the beneficiaries. As we all know, the beneficiaries, the IRS, are going to take a tax bite out of that value. And in Jim's case, it's about $143,000. So total tax liability here for Jim on his IRA, if he just stays status quo, keeps doing what he's doing, is about $420,000 of taxes on a $500,000 account. And that oftentimes is very off-putting. People have never seen this. They don't understand it. Like, man, that's a lot of taxes that I could pay. And that's where we can step in and help differentiate our practice. Because if we look at converting these dollars to a tax-free Roth or IUL, and we take this $500,000 and over the next 5 years, convert it, pay the taxes now. Again, while taxes are historically low, we can minimize his taxes down to $125,000. And of course, once it's in a tax-free vehicle, there's no taxes on the growth. There's no taxes at death. So what you're looking at now is our tax report, our total tax burden report, that we think should be in front of every client or prospect over the age of 60 with qualified money, so that you can share with them exactly where they're at and how you can help them save. In this case, Jim, I can help you save about $300,000 overall in your taxes just by implementing a simple tax diversification strategy. And by the way, a lot of people feel uncomfortable, like, oh, I don't want to create additional taxes for my retirement, for my clients or my prospects. Well, you're not creating any additional taxes. Once money's been in a deferred vehicle, it's got to pay the taxes. It's just a matter of when. When are you going to pay it? Are you going to pay it now, or are you going to pay it later when taxes could be much, much higher? That's the risk we're trying to diversify against. And you can see here, remember, he's got $1.5 million in his IRA. We're just diversifying a third of that, about $500,000. And for that, we're saving about $300,000 in taxes. So that's a big deal. And I want to mention here, our report shows Roth IRA. And so it's not compliant for you to compare a qualified account to an IUL on the same report. So we use Roth, and we then pivot here to why we like IUL. Roth is certainly one tax-free option, but it's not the one that is our preferred option. We like IUL for a number of reasons that we can get into. And I think, one of those obviously is, what happens if I take this $125,000, pay the taxes, and something happens to me prematurely and I'm using a Roth IRA? I just lost those taxes. I paid them, they're gone, right? With an IUL, we know in this case, for the $75,000 5 pay, it's got over $1 million of initial death benefit. So that provides a lot of liquidity to make us whole on the tax side of things. Not only pay that, but Curtis, I think you even have kind of another point to make there, another idea on the topic of what we do, why that death benefit might kick in and become helpful.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of them, and part of the reason why you see the prevalence of partial Roth conversions is you get that pushback from a client that says, well, if I convert all of my qualified funds, how many years is it going to take to get back to even? And does that make sense? And so by doing this partial conversion like this, you're leaving that balance there. But to your point, this is still life insurance. So we've got a big tax-free death benefit. And so essentially what we can do is not only disinherit the IRS for a portion of those funds, but then secondly, if somebody passes away prematurely, we've got an infusion of tax-free capital that comes in. You can basically convert the balance of those qualified accounts. You've already got the money there to pay the income tax liability, and then everything is tax-free from that point forward in all their accounts. And so I think there's a huge opportunity there for people to where they don't have to come out of pocket for that. So I think it's a really important planning topic, and especially, again, what we're talking about is going into an increasing tax rate environment. So having a balanced portfolio, not only from a risk tolerance standpoint, but from a tax status standpoint, I think is going to be critically important.
Yeah, I'd agree. And I think now more than most, with people seeing Corona and different things can happen prematurely that we weren't expecting, and life insurance plays a critical part in helping provide liquidity in case our plan doesn't work. And in this case, Roth IRA, great, it's an option, but why wouldn't I want to fund a tax-free vehicle that provides me, death benefits, and then of course the living benefits and market protections? We hit all those things, but just want to make that point here on this, that our reports, tax-wise, oftentimes will show the Roth IRA just for tax purposes. And the whole point of this is to say, hey, we can help you save about $300,000. Sometimes this is, when we look at the numbers difference here, it's millions of dollars in tax savings. And when you're able to put that in front of a client, it really opens their eyes. It's something that helps you engage and start this conversation. We're not even really talking about life insurance. Of course, we did as a death benefit here, But from a tax standpoint, we're just really sharing with a client the ability to help them reduce their overall taxes in retirement first and foremost. And I think that's what gets people attention and gets them engaged with what you're trying to accomplish. So let's take a look now at now that we've looked at the taxes saved, and what we're looking at here is just a scorecard. This is a scorecard that's on our site. A lot of people like to use it. That's why I have it up here. The difference between the path that Jim was on before they met with you and the conversion path is about $300,000. So we always lead with taxes first, no matter what the age of the client is. We use those tax reports to engage the client on taxes saved, and we can share with them here because it's like sales 101. We tell them a client, we tell them again, then we tell them what we told them. So we told them we can help them save taxes. We told them through the report, and then we're using this just as a tell them again, tell them what we told them type of thing. The next thing you can do in our software is income analysis. What does your income look like if you just keep your qualified account, take systematic withdrawals, and what would the income look like from an IUL or a tax-free source? And so these are two separate reports, but for our purposes of this conversation, we're going to look at it like we ran the two reports income-wise, and we're just going to set these two pages side by side so that we can have a conversation with a client and compare them. And so on the qualified account side, we're going to keep the full $500,000. Again, we're going to analyze the same amount we're considering converting. And we're going to let that money grow at 4.25% from age 60 to 70. So it grows to a little over $600,000. And then we just asked our software, what's the max systematic withdrawal I can take out of that qualified account so that my money lasts till 100? And so that dollar value is about $33,000. And of course, once I pull that money out of the qualified account, of course, got to pay taxes. So the net amount is about $22,000. And so what we're sharing with this client is, here's about the income you could expect if you stay status quo, keep doing what you're doing. It's about $22,000 in your pocket each year, and a total net distribution of $673,000. So we're just giving them a snapshot of here's the path that you're on, the potential income you could get from that qualified account, that $500,000. On the IUL side, you can run whatever carrier that you feel comfortable with. We don't care. The software, you can plug in any of them, and that's perfectly fine. And so what we did here is we ran an IUL illustration for $375,000 because remember, $125,000 went to get the IRS off our back. They're no longer involved with this money. We have a net amount of $375,000. We're now going to grow tax-free. And the $375,000 grows to $466,000 by age 70. And then according to the IUL illustration, the income is about $35,000 a year. And of course, it's tax-free, so we don't have to worry about taxes coming out of it. And as I look at the total distribution, which includes, by the way, a couple $100,000 with a death benefit at the end, so IULs are always going to look strong because of that death benefit on that total distribution standpoint. That makes sense. Of $1.2 million. And so here we can side by side it. And, we get the question all the time, well, what if we ran the numbers differently or, taxed differently? That's fine. But the real point we try to make when we're sharing these clients or these reports with a client is that even if let's say the income amount was exactly the same, the idea that if taxes are going to move up, Mr. and Ms. Client, if you're concerned taxes are going to move up, it's only going to impact one of these accounts. The qualified account is going to get hammered. If your tax rate goes from 25 to 40 or 50%, your net income is going to go down, and we just don't know how far it's going to go down because we have no idea what taxes are going to do in the future. The reason that we tax diversify is not only to get that initial tax savings of about $300,000 that I just shared with you, but it's also so that the income that we can get is more predictable because it's tax-free. And that's very apparent here. The other thing that we get a lot is people that say, well, I see that $35,000 is more. Why couldn't I just take more income out of my qualified account and match it and still keep the qualified account, not use insurance? Well, that's fine. But in order to match the $35,000 tax-free income, we'd have to take out $52,000 of distribution out of the qualified account to net $35,000. And of course, everybody here knows when we increase the amount that high, it's going to mean one thing: we're going to run out of money sooner. In fact, by age 85, we've run out of money, $764,000 distribution. And so that's the real issue. And when we create these reports, what you're looking now is the actual talking pages we use on the income analysis reports. And I think, initially we had talked about, Curtis had said, what's been one of the reasons that's driving sales success for you at Stonewood is you look at that report on the right. That's a compliant IUL income report. All that small print is the carrier compliance, and that's where Stonewood's done the heavy lifting at the compliance level with these carriers to make a simplified report. I mean, there's nobody you can put that in front of that's really not going to understand what's going on. You've got $375,000 of premium initially. It grows from 60 to 70 to 400 and change, and then it's going to produce $35,000 of income, and your total distributions $1.2 million. Very simple, very compliant, easy to understand. And when we, in this business, if we can make things simple and easy, clients and prospects are going to get it, and they're going to want to implement a strategy. If it's confusing, forget about it. They're not going to understand. If we're flipping through 50 pages of carrier illustration, trying to show income here, there, and everywhere, it can become confusing. And if clients get confused, they lose trust and they don't buy. And that's really, I think, one of our secrets is all these reports are simple to understand. They get it and they're easy. And these are, again, they're one page. There's one page of about a 7-page income report. There's a detailed year-by-year breakdown. So somebody that wants to see the details, same with our tax report. Each year is broken down individually, so someone could prove out the numbers and see the numbers very easily. But these reports really help simplify why IUL makes so much sense from an income standpoint. So we showed a tax report. We've showed an income analysis, the difference between systematic withdrawal and the IUL. Total distribution is almost $600,000. So we're showing a tax savings of nearly $300,000, income distributions of about $600,000 of total distribution to the family. And the last thing we talked about is risk and the power of indexing, because some people will say, well, a Roth IRA could still do a lot of that. Maybe they're not buying the death benefit part of it. They're going to live a healthy, long life and don't care about that. Well, that's fine. But what about the market? We've seen market volatility, tons of it. That's not going to go away. In the last 20 years, you can see how an unprotected Roth account was subject to all that market risk, Mr. and Mrs. Client. We like to use an index because it protects us in market downturns. That's part of the reason, in addition to the tax benefits and the income benefits for IUL, we like the IUL and the index because it protects you in down markets. And some people forget that just earlier this year, early 2020, when the market dropped during the coronavirus, when the market really tanked, it tanked in about 2 weeks. In the first 16 days of March, from an over 6% rate of return on the S&P over 20 years, that was the average rate, to under 4.5% in 2 weeks. Look how the index investor fared over that same period. They weren't affected. They were protected. And that's really why we like to get a portion of the money in the index to protect it and take some of that risk out of your portfolio. So there's a number of iterations of these with different cap rates. Somewhere between 8 and 12% seems to be the cap rates available in the marketplace. But the story is always the same. We're using the index to protect you and take some of the risk out of your portfolio. There's also the worst decade. People always want a worst case scenario. Well, here it is. It's that 2000 10-year period here, lost decade or worst decade, whatever you want to call it, where most people lost money. Well, how did an index fare over that same period of time? Well, it fared pretty well. Your $100,000 went to $140,000, $150,000, and one of the worst case scenarios we can find. So a number of these charts and market protection charts are available for you to use. You can download them and utilize them in your sales presentation right away. Last thing I want to share with you, report-wise, that we use often, one of the most common reports we use is our expense reports. And this is something that comes up. People are going to Google life insurance. They're going to find bad things. That's just the way people make decisions now. They get online, they do their research. And so cost is going to come up, and they're going to say, wow, those things are all great. You showed me a $300,000 tax savings. You're showing me all this income creation. It's got to cost a ton of money to protect my money from the market. Insurance is too expensive. You name the talking head that says it's too expensive. I'm sure there's a bunch of them that they can find. So you can simply do this. You get on our software, you can plug in the carrier illustration information. We take some data points and we produce a one-page compliant cost report that's simple to show to a client. And this is it. If we're doing a good job in the sales process and someone objects because of cost, it's too expensive, we say compared to what? And they'll tell us, well, our mutual fund is 1%, or my 401k charges me 2%. This has got to be way more expensive than that. They want to talk in percentage form because that's the way that most people understand expenses. And so when you run a carrier illustration, again, we just take a couple of data points off the carrier illustration, plug it into our cost software. Jim's insurance policy that we're showing here, his cost is 1.3%. That stacks up great against just about anything. And most of the time, the contracts we run through here, very reasonable expenses. On average, the cost of insurance is very reasonable. And so you have the ability to plug it in and get this one-page compliant expense report that you can have in your back pocket. So when cost comes up, and it will, that you can address it head on and say, well, I knew that was going to come up. Here's a report I want to share with you that just shows you that, hey, for 1.3%, what do we get? We get our tax reduction, nearly $300,000. Our income creation, over $600,000. We got market protections against market volatility. You got a death benefit. We got a living benefit. You got all these things. And what's it going to cost? It's going to average about 1.3% if we hold it long term, which, by the way, is the only way to really look at this type of strategy. So, number of reports that you can use. I've showed you a few of them that are some of the most common ones that we use. We certainly do legacy planning reports where people are just buying insurance for death benefit. We do that very simply and easily. And there's a number of other ones that we'd be happy to share with you.
Tyler, I have a question for you because you've shown several different concepts that you guys can illustrate, but one of the most common things we come across is maybe an advisor who is just wanting to illustrate an IUL, just want to show the power of an IUL and what it looks like. And I mean, it has dramatically changed. You go back 10 years ago, illustrations were maybe 15 to 20 pages long, which is still pretty decent. Now it's 40, 50. I mean, you go to New York and it's 60 or 70 pages. And so I know that's one thing that advisors are looking for is a way to, how do I take that massive report and just get something that's kind of to the point of the rest of the reports we're talking about, simple, succinct, but gets the narrative across of what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, that's a great comment. And so one of the things our software does is a simplified IUL. In fact, let me tee it up here and I'll share with you the simplified IUL. So you can take, and these are just data points, we just enter in the data from the IUL illustration, and we work with the carriers to make this as compliant as a supplemental. And so here it is, it's very simple. This would be kind of a new rules client, someone that's saving regularly in an IUL. They're putting $10,000 in a year, and age 40, and they're going to save $10,000 for 25 years. So the total premium, $250,000. Initial death benefit, $280,000. The value at retirement age, according to this illustration, is $593,000, and the potential tax-free income is $62,000. And I really like the average annual net return at year end, 7.8%. And if you look at that and you say, boy, what would I have to earn on the taxable side to get that? And this report is just very, very simple. It's very powerful. We share it on one page. And it's compliant. Here's what we're going to do, Mr. Klein. We're going to put 10 grand in a year. What's that going to mean for you at retirement age? It means you're going to have about $593,000, and we're going to create a tax-free income, approximately $62,000. This is a very powerful slide. So we, again, just making things simple to present where everybody gets it, and if something happens to you prematurely, you've got a $280,000 of liquidity from, as soon as we fund that premium. That's huge. I mean, that's a huge benefit to a family. And if people want to look, cash flow wise, here's what it looks like. We're putting $250 in over the next 25 years, and the income over your lifetime is about $3 million out. That's a big number. That includes the death benefit at the end. But just simple charts and simplifying this in a compliant way is really what we're doing.
Absolutely. So, and I see you're pulling it up here too, because that was kind of my next question. I'm sure a lot of the advisors who are watching this are wondering, well, how do I get access to this, and what does that look like, and what are the next steps?
Yeah. And so, typically, we've got a great partnership here with IAMS, and they've negotiated a good discount. Typically, a license to all of our software is about $2,200 a year. It's discounted down through this relationship to $1,800, so it's a pretty significant savings. And what does it include? It includes all your software around saving, your saver clients, the 30 to 60-year-olds, and the 60-plus marketplace. So we're going after the conversion cases. And just to give you an idea, for the saver clients, the people that are putting money in, and it sounds like there's a great lead system to do that. The average target premium for our Stonewood members, and IAMS may be a little bit different, but it's usually $8,000 to $10,000 of target premium each year that's going in to that type of new rules retirement savings case. The conversion case, the no compromise retirement plan marketing system that we have, those cases average anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000 of target premium, because the people have these assets. We're just redeploying, like Jim's example, $1.5 million, we're taking $500,000. Maybe somebody has $500,000 and you're converting $100K of it. The target premium number goes up because we're just talking about engaging clients, prospects with money, and so the case sizes are a little bigger. And I'll show you an example of that in a second. Our software also includes very extensive training. In fact, we've got a training coming up in March that you can attend at $600 to attend, without being a Stonewood member. But if you're Stonewood member for $1,800, that is included. It's a master's training where we've just taken all the best practices, how to customize this marketing material, how to show it, how to use the webinars, how to use the ebooks, everything that is worked successfully for financial professionals over the last several years to go from no target premium to millions in some cases, or hundreds of thousands. To have success with this, we just share with you all the sales and positioning and marketing ideas that we've known to work and things that you can use and implement in your business. That's included. We also take you through a 5-step onboarding process where we take you and anybody on your team through our software and our site, how to use it, how to customize it, how to market with it effectively. And that's something that's always available. So we, in partnership with IAMS, we just are an extra person as your back office for support when it comes to our software and our marketing tools and resources. So we're always there for that. All of our PowerPoint presentations around, and there's several other ones besides the 2 books that you can download and utilize around tax reduction, both webinars and live events, those are available. And again, there's an ability to customize the book. I think it's important to know if you wanted to just go buy the books right now and get them off of Amazon, they're probably $15 or $20 a book. And through our relationship with IAMS, you get it at a wholesale cost, which is about $6 a book, and that includes shipping. So very, inexpensive marketing. These books have been very successful in getting them out. For $6, if you can engage somebody that's going to come to you to do a conversion case or a save case, you almost can't even mess up the return on investment on that. And that's a really nice benefit, both the discount on the annual membership and access to all these resources, and the discount on the books. Let me just talk to you a little bit about, we talked about a case study conversion from Jim here. He ended up with $500,000 that we converted to the IUL. It ended up being a 5-pay. We took $100,000 out, as you may remember. $25,000 went to the IRS to pay our debt there. $75,000 funded an IUL over a 5-year period. The revenue on that is about, if you haven't been doing this type of business, is about $40,000, plus or minus. That's a great return on investment if you are just looking at one case a year. What we find is if you're taking that report, that tax burden analysis, and getting in front of every client over the age of 60 or prospect over the age of 60 with qualified money, you'll create this funnel where you're almost getting one of these teed up in underwriting a month. And if that's the case for people where we've seen success, you're getting $300,000 or $400,000 of new revenue from this conversion idea. We've got this window of time between now and 2026 to get in front of people, really push the idea that right now is the best time to pay the taxes. We don't know what's going to happen beyond here, and we can really help a lot of people. And this becomes a significant strategy, an idea that differentiates your business, could drive a lot of new revenue for you. And specifically, the other thing, if you're seeing gating prospects with qualified money, not only do you pick up the life business, but somebody like Jim here that had the $500,000 annuity and the other $500,000 in the AUM, you're going to pick it all up. They're going to want you to help them because nobody showed them a tax reduction strategy like this, and it's pretty. It doesn't take a lot of these guys to really be transformative to a practice. And we hear time and time again that talking about this tax reduction strategy really helps engage a higher net worth prospect than advisors have in the past, because it's just a different story. So the numbers I want to share with them on what the return on investment look like, and just kind of close it up with a recap. So we have a number of books and marketing programs and software for what we call kind of our basic IUL client, which is saving for retirement, both seminars and books. There's reports for those clients saving in an IUL versus 401k, and a lot of our training is digital there. And on the Stonewood membership, you pick up also the no compromise retirement plan, which is our IRA to IUL conversion, all the software around that, the tax reporting, the wealth transfer reports, Simplified Iul, and we do that complimentary master's training is included in that, and one-on-one coaching. You get a dedicated client manager from Stonewood to help you with all these resources. So if you're looking at for ideas to really boost sales and revenue for your business this year, if you like what you heard, you can plug in and we can help with that. I'll give you kind of all the links here. I know this will also be up and available on our Stonewood wall, but here's the sources that you can go to and get a referral code, which is a discount code basically for membership, available through the Himes relationship. Lots of content there. And really, again, hope this was something that you're going to find helpful and you want to integrate into your business. We've had a tremendous amount of success with folks that engage with us and want to implement this in their strategy. And so I'll just thank you, Curtis, for having us again today. Really appreciate that and appreciate the relationship with Himes, and looking forward to a great 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tyler, we appreciate you taking the time with us today. And what I can tell you is we got started with you guys last year, and the reason we wanted you on here is because we have been seeing success. We have seen larger cases. We have seen more casework coming in from the advisors, and the software just. And I say software, and it really doesn't injustice, because you've got a whole system here. Whether it's point of sale, whether it's marketing and prospecting, and then really being able to put some real numbers to it and really show a client. And again, it's the consistent feedback we get from advisors using this is I sit down with people and you can see the light bulb go off in their head of, I didn't realize that, because again, they're just doing what they've kind of always been told to do. And nobody's ever actually crunched the numbers and said, well, here's what you're actually deferring, and here's what it's actually going to look like. And it's just it takes the concept and the idea of IUL and tax strategy and just really puts it creates a profound impact with clients. So in any case, as Tyler mentioned, we've got this on the screen here. If you've got questions, give us a call. Talk to your life sales director here over at Himes. They're more than happy to talk to you about it. If you want to if you're not sure if you want to move forward or not, give us a call with a case. We'll run some numbers on it, get some reports created for you, but we're here to help you, and we appreciate everybody taking the time to watch the video today.